Hello, my name's Andrew, and today we're doing a first impression review of the mukishoes Chelsea BOLOTA edition. So last winter season, I reviewed the black Chelseas by mukishoes. They're a really great option for like formal wear and business, that kind of thing. But I just wanted something that would fit in like outdoors, you know, like if I wanted to go on a walk or just some light hiking. And the BOLOTA definitely feels more like an outdoorsy type Chelsea boot. It's kind of like in between outdoorsy and casual, fashionable. But you could still wear it for office wear or even formal. It still looks really classy. But yeah, let's just take a look at the dimensions. Up front, the toe box I would say is medium wide. Some of mukishoe styles get towards extra wide because they have a lot of flex in them, and the Chelsea BOLOTA does as well. So it's a little bit wider than it seems, and especially if leather, it tends to conform to the shape of your feet over time. So I would say they might get to a wide, but they're probably not extra wide. But in terms of the leather, the BOLOTAs have a little bit more matte texture. They look kind of worn in when you first get them, which I think looks really cool. It's a bit more vintagey. And they have your typical Chelsea stretch on the sides. They're really easy to get in. You've got a pull tab in the back there. And then they are lines with Barefoot. It's a Portuguese wool. It's a traditional way of felting wool that makes it very dense and rugged. Merino wool is just a little bit softer, but it's not as durable. And if you're wearing a sock inside these, like I wear Injinji merino wool toe socks, so I really don't need something that's super smooth, but it still feels pretty soft. I thought it felt a little bit better in terms of temperature range compared to the mukishoes blacks, which are a little more puffy. It's slightly more thick, and it just felt like it was a really great boot for super cold weather, but it does limit the temperature range. When you get like up into the 50s, they could start to feel a little bit warm. So the BOLOTAs, they felt like I could get up into maybe like 55, 60 degrees and my feet wouldn't be sweating, which is a great thing about wool. It's temperature regulating, and it's moisture wicking as well. So if your feet start to get sweaty, it kind of moves the moisture away from your body, which is great. Versus if you have something like a cotton or a synthetic lining where your feet can get really sweaty. So they felt great. And actually, a funny story, yesterday I took them out for my first walk, and it was kind of late because I've been working on my van conversion all day. And when I was coming back, it started to rain just out of nowhere. And like, you know, these weren't the ideal thing to be wearing. I should have had a waterproof boot. But I found out that the leather actually is pretty highly water resistant. My feet really didn't get wet. I think towards the end they got a little bit damp because there were starting to be like these huge, you know, like half-inch deep puddles and everything. But overall, I was pretty impressed. And you can treat these with like a lanolin wax, beeswax combination like any leather. But anyways, when I was coming back, the nice thing I love about mukishoes is that they're super thin. They're like 3.5 millimeters. So they're pretty much the most flexible barefoot shoe brand that you can buy. But they also have really good grip. You can see when I put some pressure on there, it holds my finger. So mukishoes also has one of the best non-slip treads. So anyways, like I'm going back on this light trail, and it's kind of like, you know, a bit of gravel, mostly packed dirt, but it's starting to get really slippery and everything. And I'm just like running because it starts to lightning out. And I'm counting the seconds between, you know, when I see the flash and when I hear the boom. And at first it's like 10 seconds, then it's like 8 seconds, and it's 6 seconds, 4 seconds, 2 seconds. So I'm like really booking it. And it was just funny, you know, because I have an umbrella like Mary Poppins. I'm just like running on the trail in Chelsea boots. And, you know, no, they're not the footwear that you would normally wear for running, but that's something to me that if you can do that in like a barefoot casual boot, then it says that it's a really good barefoot option, you know, because it's like so flexible, and then you've got the grip as well. So I just like to have a barefoot boot where I feel like even if it's not meant for that, like I could just break out and do a little bit of running if I wanted to, or I don't know, if I'm being chased by a bear or a robber or something like that. But overall, they felt really comfortable. And even though, you know, it was in the high 50s, like I said, the wool felt really nice, like it does for pretty much any wool barefoot lined shoe that I've tried. But yeah, something else that I like about mukishoes is they all stitch the sole. So it does create a potential for a little bit of water getting in. But overall, I tend to like stitch soles better because they're just way more durable in general than glued soles. You know, in the beginning, a glued sole is going to be more waterproof because it doesn't have the holes here, but it can come apart over time. You can fix it with shoe glue, but in general, I do like stitching better. And then in terms of the sole for the BOLOTA, it's a pretty minimal sole. It does have a little bit of grip. So it's mostly made for pavement and concrete. These would be really comfortable for like walking around the city. If you need to warm them up because they are, you know, a bit thin, you can put a wool felt liner in the bottom. They already do have wool. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see there because the shoe is kind of light. But if you want to add an extra layer there, and if you want to stack up maybe a layer or two of like mid-weight and gingies and then like a really lightweight and gingy, that's always an option to make them warmer. But a couple last things about this shoe that I want to mention. It has about, you know, medium height here. It could get a little bit tight in the front of the shoe if you were layering up socks or adding an insole, like I said, so that's something to bear in mind. If you're someone with a super high arch, you might not be able to fit too much else in this boot other than like a mid-weight pair of socks. And then in terms of the toe box, like I just wish that there was just a little bit more room up front because it does taper somewhat, but like I said, there is a pretty good amount of stretch and leather does stretch over time, so it wasn't a problem for me. I still had plenty of room to move back and forth. I have medium width feet, so that's kind of another indicator to me that this is sort of like a medium to wide type boot. And then one last thing, in the back, I really love that they've curved the boot out like this because it creates a really nice lockdown where your heel comes in. And I was not sliding around at all in these boots, and I was just like running flat out, you know. So overall, I think the BOLOTA by mukishoes, really comfortable. Another good option is the Magical Shoes Chelsea, and it also comes in a version called the Alaskan, which is basically the same thing, but it's just got laces. I really like this boot because it's super lightweight and flexible, but it's got a ton of insulation in there. The one downside is that the rubber sole doesn't come up very high, so you can get water in here. I think it's a better dry, cold weather type boot. And then it's got a pretty similar fit to the mukishoes BOLOTA and the black Chelsea version. They've got multiple colors. They also have black as well, but yeah, I kind of like the chestnut. I think it's really cool. And the laces, this is kind of unique to me because it feels like a Chelsea boot, but then it's also sort of sneakerish, you know, and then you've got like the split where you would normally have that toe box divider for a sneaker. The sole is 6.5 millimeters, so it's a little bit thicker than mukishoes, but still really flexible. So this is a good in-between option where you get some protection and a little bit more grip, but still a super flexible boot. Finally, I've got the Isla Uma Chelsea, and this is definitely the most rugged out of all of the boots. It has a little bit more structure to it, as you can see. It's a harder wearing leather. The toe box is a little bit wider, however, you can see that it really doesn't have that much stretch. So if you're looking for something that has more protection, this would be a good boot. I love the color. It's kind of like the mukishoes BOLOTA, and then it feels worn in as soon as you get it. And then, you know, it's got the typical Chelsea slide in. I found it a little bit tighter to get in just because there's more structure to the leather, but again, a stitched sole, which is always nice. And then the tread, this is a 4 millimeter boot, but actually feels less flexible than the 6.5 millimeter from Magical Shoes. And then it has a minimal tread, so there's not too much grip. It's one that you're gonna use for gravel and pavement and cement and stuff like that, but it does have a little bit more durability to it and toughness, where you can take it out on some more rocky and sharp type paths than you could with the other ones, and you don't have to worry about getting punctures through there. It does feel a little bit stiff. Like I said, it doesn't have quite as much flexibility as the others, but it is highly water resistant. This is probably the most water resistant out of the three. And then inside you also have wool insulation. So overall, the Uma is the best option for really wet, nasty conditions, or if you're gonna be on a little bit more rugged terrain as well as urban use. All right, so that's my first impression review of the mukishoes Chelsea BOLOTA and friends. But if you'd like to support the channel, you can shop the referral links down below, browse and filter more products at my website, barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about the mukishoes Chelsea BOLOTA or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.